Go to the beginning of this now. ठीक है. So we talked about these two powers of, one is power of imagination and the other power of willful action. And we were understanding this in the format that this power of imagination is our virtual world where we think, imagine things on our own. And we have some references from the real world, but this picture is not complete in our head. So with this incomplete picture, we germinate various ideas, and these ideas we try to live. And when we live, this idea, when it's translated into an action, then the result which comes are at times acceptable and at other times unacceptable to us. When they're acceptable, we feel happiness, and if they're unacceptable, we feel unhappiness. So the ideas are rooted in the imagined laws, regulation, and balance in nature. Right? So here we are saying that nature is governed by certain laws, certain regulation, and certain balance. And the definition of word order, the way we are using it, is this. What is it? That order is existence of objects governed by set of objects governed by laws, natural regulation, and natural balance. This is the definition of order or orderliness. Okay? So when we are imagining things, this, if we have not studied nature, then we don't have it within us. So we need to study nature, we need to study human being, we need to study human orderliness. And if we have not studied it, it won't be with us. And if it is not with us, then the living still has to go on. So we have to make certain decisions. We have to take some action. So we do. And at times the results which come are not acceptable to us. So we keep on going through this. So when we try to do course correction in case the unacceptable results are coming, initial reaction is maybe we are not implementing it right. We are not doing it right. So we tell children especially, we tell, no, you do it differently. You're not doing it right. Or the government is not implementing things rightly. Right? So initially our thought goes to the problem of implementation. But the core issue is that these ideas are germinating from the base which itself is incomplete. And therefore, they can never result in satisfactory results. We try to do one thing, whether that happens or not happens, some side effect comes. That is what we are seeing all the time. Right? So we wanted to do agriculture. We think we want to increase the produce. So we brought in chemical fertilizers. We didn't want to fall sick because of those. So that side effect came, that result came. Because when you consume certain chemicals, they have an impact on the body. If you're going to put chemicals in your food, they're going to enter your body. So now the state has come to the fact that even a newborn child, when it's being breastfed, mother's milk has got so many poisons, so many chemicals. So we are free to act because we have this power of willful action. We have the freedom to act, but we have to face the consequences. We are dependent on the consequences. We can't be independent of the results. Whatever result comes, we have to face it. It will impact us. Right? We never wanted chemical food or chemical in our food, but now we are eating it. It is there. We can't go hungry. So we are facing the consequences. So when the spiritual aspect is not awakened, then the human beings live like this. They are free to act, but they are bound by the consequences. So they face the music later on. But there is a way of living when spiritual aspect is awakened, when you are able to understand everything, your intellect, and this becomes rooted in the reality, then you do actions for the results which are in harmony with the system, with other human beings, with the nature. So you are free to act, and because the results are the ones which you want and you are getting those results, so you have the freedom to choose the result you want. So that is another way of living. We'll talk about it a little more a little later. Coming back to this. So now that we know the problem lies here, what do? So we need to study this real world, which basically means study of natural laws, natural regulation, and natural balance in the real world. Next. So the study of reality, through the body we do the study, Jivan and body together with each other, and we do the study. This enriches our power of imagination. Power of imagination is the tool which we use for studying. When I'm saying things, you are visualizing these things in your imagination. That's how you are able to grasp the meaning. So our tool to study is our power of imagination, right? And this, when is used properly, it awakens our spiritual aspect. And the spiritual aspect, the study of laws, of regulation and natural balance, when it's complete, then it has an impact on our intellect, which is this. And this the impact is that this becomes in tune to the real world. That's why the gray color has gone now, and that is what I'm trying to show here. So the spirituality based intellect, virtual world, becomes equal to the real world. Now what we're imagining is in full alignment with the real world. And therefore any ideas germinating here will be in alignment with the real world. So you'll know the right results also. So whatever result you want, you do the action for it, and you'll always get acceptable. So this is the basis for your continuous happiness. Show this again. Questions? Mike. Hey, Mike.
Based on the example you gave about the increase in production of food grains through fertilizer, and further that knowledge of the real world will result in harmonious outcomes. Firstly, is this study a study of cause-effect relationship? Because ultimately, we are studying results. And when we say cause-effect, I think you have shown that there may not be one result, there may not be one effect, there may be number of effects. that means all permutation combinations have to be taken into account. My second problem is, in this example, is that do we have real choices? Like say in this case, somebody could argue that we have two choices: either increase food grain production through fertilizer and die slowly, or die with hunger earlier. So somebody could argue that these were the two choices. What choice could you take?
Okay, I'll answer the second one first. Are there really two choices? And was this decision taken for increasing the food? Really? So, yeah, the decision was taken. We needed to increase the food production because the world population was increasing. But we also had a lot of nitrogen-based chemicals in the factories which were earlier making bombs which were needed in the World War. And we needed to utilize those chemicals. So this seemed like a very good solution. We did not really study how with ecological balance we can increase the food production. It can be increased. I myself have done a lot of farming for the last 14 years and taken very high production through organic methods. And it's not very difficult, but it requires a proper study, it requires a lot of effort, but it is doable. So I don't think there are only two choices. It is just that we have formed these equations like that. It's like black or white, either this or that. There are no other choices. We think like that right now. But there are many ways of doing things. And there are many examples of this, of like where productions can be increased by using natural methods. And a lot of universities are also saying this. But there is a due diligence required in that. There is a discipline required in that. There is an effort required in that. We are trying to escape from all that. So therefore we are taking shortcuts. So that is one of the responses. Then about the results, cause and effect, causality and effect, right? So when we study in reference to keeping our living at the center, we need to study how to produce our food. We need to study how to produce clothing for ourselves. We need to study how to get shelter for ourselves, how to get the number of means for transportation or telecommunication. So first we have to identify our needs properly and in how much quantity we need those. And cause and effect in that domain can be studied very easily. Anything can be studied provided we have the requirement to study it, if we feel the need for it. And there is infinite to study. But for our living there is finite. So whatever our area of interest, whatever we want to put our efforts into, like we want to contribute in society through farming, you can study farming and do it. Somebody wants to contribute by making clothes, they can study that. Somebody wants to contribute by doing some other work, so they can study the principles there. And how you can remain aligned with nature. That is not too difficult. The issue is not there. The issue is, problem is like, one is materialism is based also on the principle of exploitation. Without exploiting, you cannot survive. That is one of the fundamental principles in materialism. The whole idea is that when few things interact with each other, the one which will survive is the one that will be able to exploit others in a better way. Whereas here we are saying things, when they function together, they all nurture each other. That's what we are calling natural law, natural balance, and natural regulation. So we'll talk about that when we come to the study of nature, how that happens, that cycle takes place. But very basic things we can understand very easily. Some will require a lot more study and some will require longer study. But it can be understood, all cause and effects that we need to study. There is no, it's not beyond humankind. So there is no problem in studying cause and effect. Is your question answered? Yes. Anybody here? And again, this is just a proposal. I'm saying there is a possibility of living like this. If you want to explore, that's okay. If you don't want to explore, that is also. Yes, please. Mike, you know?
Does a spirituality based intellect make it clear to us what decisions we should make?
Yeah.
It does. But if and we already know what decisions we should make, somewhere there implied a reduced power of willful action, because then you're not really making a choice.
No, you are making a choice, because choice comes in combination of you and the circumstances. Circumstances are not in your control. Only your part is in your control.
Question I was trying to ask is that by the study of reality, we gain this spiritual aspect, but can the study of reality, say, lead to new temptations? And if there are temptations which can, say, trouble spirituality based intellect, basically, can a spirituality based intellect be confused by some sense?
So a fulfilled spirituality aspect cannot be confused. But incomplete can be. You see, sometimes it seems like this, like if we understood everything, then life will become very boring and very limited and like that. No, you're not saying that, but what I'm saying, it can seem like that. Right now also we are living like this. You all live in a household and there is food made there every day. And you know how to make food. You know the laws which govern that. You know the system, the processes which govern that. Right? And you choose what to make. Where is the problem? That is one state. And one is you have no clue how food is made. It seems that you have a lot wider choice. But is that the state you want to be? It's just an illusion that there is more choice. Actually, there is lack of choice because there is no awareness. The freedom is amongst the things which are to be done, which are in alignment. It is not for destroying things. And nature has given us an inbuilt mechanism for that. When we destroy anything, it pains us. Collectively as well as individually.
I think, Coach, the spiritual aspect, when we say sensory temptations, it sounds as if it's something negative. Temptation itself seems to be negative. But any sensory need, whether it's I want to have golgappas, so the spiritual aspect would not like say कि नहीं खाना चाहिए, but just regulate it.
So, like for example, you won't stop eating.
You won't stop eating.
One. You won't stop eating things you like. Two. But for your things which you like to eat, you will not exploit others. You will not exploit nature.
Or overindulge.
Or like you will still go on drives.
Yeah.
But like you won't expect them to solve your problems.
This is going to remain till the end.
I'm actually very confused with this. I just want to restate it so that I'm a little clear. So when you say that when we have an understanding of the reality, it leads to awakened spiritual aspects, and then the ideas we have are more complete, which would lead to more willful actions, and which would lead to acceptable results.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want a simple example, not a farming one, but a simple example from a day-to-day life, which would help me understand it a little better. And theoretically, I've got it, but
okay. So then let's come to my favorite topic, which is food. We all love food, right? So what is the purpose of food? So you can satisfy the hunger by drinking water also. Nourishment. Food is supposed to provide nourishment for the body. In fact, food is defined by that. Anything that provides nourishment on intake is food. Right? Now this is something to understand. But this is what I've just said, nothing new. You also knew this somewhere or other. So this is just information. Right? And most of us know about this information. Right? Now, when we are eating, how many of us remember this? That food is which provides nutrition. Right? So, merely having the information is not knowledge of it. But if you understand it, you must be knowing some people who are very careful about what they eat because they've studied nutrition and they see the impact on the body and they concluded that within them. So that becomes knowledge. Right? That becomes their acceptance within. And now that becomes the basis for their actions. Right? Now you want to find nutrition, you can find nutrition in Punjabi food or Gujarati food or Tamil food or whichever cuisine you like. Just be careful about the nutrition. So all the diversity which you want will also be there. All the creativity will also be there. It's not mechanical. But in principle, it's such a small thing. It has to provide nutrition. It doesn't take away anything from you. It empowers you because if you eat nutritious food, you become healthier. You can live in a better way. Okay, example? Give mic to Rajiv ji.
You can have food more than nutrition. You can define, it could be the taste that it gives, and then you eat, then you look at it whether it is giving you that taste or not. That is also there. Even water can be nutrition, and it is. It has a lot of minerals which go through that. So it is part of it. So it is how you look at that thing, right? So same way, if I take the same concept, the acceptable result. So you may, what we are proposing out here is there is a certain natural set of laws that you've discovered as wise to it. And then based on that, you take a certain action with a certain set of expected results. So it's not necessary on the other part. The thing which is processing it would also have the same basis of law on which that thing would process. It could be a human thing, right? And the result may not be what you were expecting, but then you are able to understand those results, then that's still an acceptable result.
So this whole thing because this is oversimplified to understand things, this is one cycle is one event, right? So when we try to understand the basis of events, we can get lost. So, and food we eat 2-3 times every day, all our life. It's a long-term process. So our relationship with food and the relationship of food with health and our well-being, we need to evaluate it over a period of time, not event-based. When we reduce it to an event, then we are not able to really see the consequences properly. Okay. Any more questions or clarifications? Take the mic.
I'm not sure if it's still relevant, but in the break time there was some conversation about unconscious actions. So I was wondering if we should take that up. Where we haven't thought of the idea very consciously and then...
Right. And intuition also along with that. Let's take it there. So go back to the previous state. So the fundamentals of our understanding, right, they function with our conscious as well as unconscious or subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it. So intuition is also rooted in this, the state of our imagination. So before spiritual awakening or spiritual fulfillment, your intuition will also be based on these principles only. After that, your intuition's quality will also change. Your subconscious mind's quality will also change. Your unconscious mind's quality will also change. It's just like right now, if you dream, your dreams, you cannot start living in harmony. You live what you live actually. Some part of that only will be there. What your underlying knowledge is, whatever your fundamental acceptances are. It won't be more than that. Because dream is partial. Some inputs of the body are not coming, for the brain is doing something. And in that state, your power of imagination is working in a certain manner. So all your intuition, unconscious mind, subconscious mind will be impacted by this. The state of your, the underlying state of your intellect. If it is incomplete, it will be incomplete. It will be rooted in that. Okay. So there is another concept which I want to introduce here. So it is understanding comes through knowing, right? So to know, to believe or accept, and to recognize and respond accordingly. These are 4 stages, 4-step process. Understanding, acceptance, recognition, and response. These 2 are happening in every unit of existence. A magnet recognizes wood, doesn't come along with it. It also recognizes iron and gets attracted to it. Recognition and response. Right? Water will flow from higher level to lower level. Right? Acceptance takes place from where the consciousness is there. Right? So animal world or animal order, there is certain acceptances inbuilt, which will be going in detail later, and they function from there. They don't need the knowledge. Knowledge as in what we defined initially, what am I, what the world is, and what is happiness. Animals don't need to know that. They don't delve into it. So, knowledge is the domain of human beings. Our design is to function or operate through this knowledge-based acceptance, and on basis of this recognition and therefore response. But before study, we accept something which has been prevalent in the human tradition from beforehand. So if we don't know, then we have information. And the information, some information we believe and some information we don't believe. And with this belief or acceptance, we make the basis of our action. Whatever you accept or believe in, it translates into action. The significance of believing, it's a faculty in us. Like, if I believe Vikas is a nice person, then I will associate with him. And I believe he is not such a nice person, I will not. So, whatever my belief, whether it is that he's a nice person, then there is a following action. And if I believe he's not a nice person, then there is a following action. So, acceptance is what translates into action. Belief is what we live. So if you want to check your actual beliefs, you should see what you're living. Yes, please. Mike.
Why does recognition happen after acceptance?
Yeah. Because we are a conscious unit. So there is, for action, there needs to be a decision. For decision, at least acceptance is needed. Otherwise, there can't be an action. Whereas in the physical chemical domain, there is no decision. There is just response. Recognition, response, recognition, response. Here, decision making is there. Okay. So, like sometimes, like people are doing something and they say, I'm doing this, I know this is not right. Use the language, I know, but it really means is, I believe this is not right, but I'm still doing it. Actually, they don't even believe that. They have the information and you agree to the information, but you've not accepted it. Because the moment you accept it, it will translate into action. It's just like food example we took, that nutrition, if you believe food is for providing nutrition, then your action would be only having nutritious food. You would first look into the nutrition. So if you're living something, that indicates what your beliefs are, not what you verbally or informationally agreed to. I support this, I support that. These are not your beliefs. Beliefs are what you're living. And this distinction is very important because we sometimes get lost in this. We are in favor of certain ideas, we are in favor of some other ideas, but not in favor of certain ideas. And these are all agreements or disagreements in our head or in our mind. But in reality, our true acceptances are things which we live. Do we encourage something? Do we give our consent for some things? Do we condone certain things? This is what will tell us about our belief system. This is who we really are, what we are living. So mind plays games with us. Our mind, or our own mind, makes us believe that no, my value system is this, but what you're living are different values. So whatever you believe or whatever you manna, that translates into jina or living. Yeah, okay, good. Hindi words are janna, manna, pehchanna, nirvah karna. These are the Hindi words. But yeah, but I'll take an example that will help you. Like for example, I was talking about Vikas Bhai, right? So if I believe that people are good and good people are like this, and I see some quality of that in Vikas Bhai, so I'll recognize him as a good person and therefore interact, respond to him accordingly. But my beliefs or my understanding lacks the fact that the quality which I am basing my belief in is actually not of a good person, or it's not reliable, then I might be mistaken about him. Right? Like we believe certain people wear certain kind of clothes. Like I'll give you another example. We used to work in an organization called SIDH in Mussoorie. And it was working for creating education opportunities for remote villages where government could not open schools. So they did one exercise once. What they would do is they would call some students from city schools, from Delhi, Gurgaon, etc., and to give exposure to them of the rural areas and some of their school students who were in the remote areas, and they would all sit together. And then they gave them a magazine. And this magazine had some photographs. And they chose one photograph where there was this well-dressed person standing outside a house, and they asked them, what do you describe this picture, right? So the village kids were given this picture, so they said this is a civilized person. This is a educated person. Okay? And he's a rich person. So many things they said about from that picture. So the query was put to them, how do you know this person is educated? The picture is showing a well-dressed person. So our association, our belief is that people who dress like this are usually educated. Right? So if somebody is dressed like that for that child or those students, it would be person dressed like this is an educated person. So they will recognize them as educated and accordingly do the action with them. Take the mic.
So in that case, are we saying that it's just the two steps of recognition response, or
humans can't simply do recognition response? It will be a response, a recognition on basis of either beliefs and then response, or recognition on basis of knowing and believing, which is called in combination called understanding, and then response.
Knowledge and acceptance, and then.
Yeah. Yes.
Just for my clarification, so knowledge and acceptance essentially have some sort of autonomous and more stable quality, and recognition and response is the domain of circumstance.
Yeah.
So they conform basically to this.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So why this is relevant is because how do we differentiate what is in our minds? Is that information? Is that agreement? Is it a belief, or is it knowledge? We should be able to make a distinction amongst these. Because we otherwise confuse all this. I mean, we read something, we quote it, we think this is our knowledge. Or is this our belief? Or is this our information? For it to be a belief, it will be part of our living. If we are just repeating it, then it's just information. Right? And knowledge is always, which is truth, which is, truth is not bound by in the limits of time and space. So for example, food is that which provides nutrition. This is true for all times and all places. It's not bound by anything. So you have to realize this. But when I say this, saying it is just information. So from information to belief, from information and belief to knowledge, and then evidence in living. That's the complete cycle. Evidence in living is here. How are you interacting? How are you recognizing things? If you believe snakes are useful things, if you see it around you, you'll let it go, or you'll make it go away from the residential area. But if you believe they are harmful things, you'll run after it to kill it. Recognition and response based on beliefs. Yes.
By the snake example only, what if evidence based is that snake has bitten me once?
Okay.
So now I feel that all snakes are harmful and I am scared of them. Now it is my experience. I think experience also comes under evidence, right? So now I want to just throw them away or kill them, whatever.
Keep a distance.
Keep a distance.
Especially from the front end.
So this is my belief.
Yeah. No, this is also your knowledge that it can bite you. You know that. Snakes, animals can bite, you know that. Snakes.
फिर तो वो हो गया ना ये conflict हो गया ना.
क्या मतलब?
As in like you might no. Let me just reframe my thought and then come back.
Yeah.
I was just thinking this also connects to what Gangu was talking about, enjoying nature, and how, if you watch National Geographic videos on mute, depending on how you think of nature, you can perceive it one way, If we are used to thinking of nature as a harmonious system and it's beautiful, we'll perceive it that way, no matter what the animals are doing. But if you turn on the volume and you hear the narration, it's quite aggressive, the way they're portraying what is happening.
And dramatic.
So how we interpret what's happening in nature is also based on how we think, and that is based on what we've gotten from knowledge in people. So similarly with the snake.
See, knowledge of snake would be understanding the role in nature. It's not only between you and the snake.
Sort of taking off from there, but what about aspects which are particular to individuals? So for example, if I'm a coward, I know that snakes are harmful, or whatever I might believe to be the fact, whatever might be my knowledge or acceptance, I would choose to say run away. So it seems as if there is a universal aspect, but there are also particular aspects to individuals which might choose to interfere with what is our more stable knowledge, acceptance, and I might say go against what is knowledge and acceptance based on some particular aspect.
So this aspect is aspect of a conscious, how you recognize this, right? So you believe this is a very dangerous situation and you need to move away from it, and you move away from it. So it doesn't violate the principle anyways, right? This is universal. Again, when you find a situation which is dangerous, you move away. Everybody does that. But what you find dangerous is different. And that difference is coming from where? From your belief system. Yeah. How you perceive it.
So maybe I could add, you think it like this, see, like she was saying, like she's hypothetically bitten by a snake, right? So your system has recognized that snake is dangerous. And then it might go to like a reflex response, like we get with the hot thing. You move suddenly. So you see a snake and maybe you go to kill it. It's like a reflex response. Somewhere then you try and bring maybe that all of them are not really that dangerous, right? And then you are able to somewhere exercise that choice, right? Can I hold, right? Not killing it at that point in time. That is where you bring it to more living scenario that you're holding, right? Now, if in your case, let's say I also have this scenario that I have huge fear, right? So then I recognize that maybe all of them are not poisonous, but some of them could be, and then my fear is very high, right? And then I have multiple choices, right? I can kill it, I can leave it, or I could run away. Then also I have a freedom to figure out which one makes sense with me. And I do that. But in all cases, I have lifted it from pure reflex response to something more, right? And then when something more has been repeated in the living scenario, it can again come back to your reflex response.
So, if we look at snakes and fear of snakes or things like that, then you understand that there is a certain living habitat they have. There is a likelihood of they'll be in this area and less likelihood that they'll be here. But at times they can come to this also, right? So you can study that. And then you can make a decision about living around them. Like suppose you are living here, there might be snakes here somewhere or the other. So you can avoid certain areas, right? And like in the evenings, you're moving around. If you're scared of snakes, bites and stuff like, you can wear shoes and take care of that. So there are many ways. You can walk with a torch, do one thing. So you see, wisdom is in living in a planned way. When we are understanding living, it is not about events. Again, I'll repeat. It is about how do we respond to this. Response is not only an event, it's continuous. Right? If you are living here, the snake issue is going to crop. If you are fearful of them, it'll keep on cropping in your head again. So how do you plan for it? What do you do? So there's certain things you can take care of, and certain things will, certain situation will demand you to do. But you can slowly get across. A lot of people get over their fear about these things if they take a educated approach to it. Right?
Like 2 examples I can give on snake itself, on reflex. Right? So one is, I've seen a lot of people in the villages where they do agriculture. So in the night time they will carry a stick normally, and when they'll walk, they'll put the stick there. It's like creating sound. So if there is a snake like this, they'll typically move away, right? So that's one thing which is there. The other is the reflex response scenario. So I was in Auroville, I was driving a bike and there was a guy sitting behind me, right? And I was driving, he said there is a snake, and I couldn't see first, he saw it first. The difference was, I'm used to not living in such places, so I look straight like this. This guy's response is to look like this. And he could see that and I couldn't, and it happened again. So I was about to step on one, right? Same thing. So it was his trained thing, right? So it's something that has come to his understanding to some level. Now it has gone to his normal reflex response. So he could see that, and it was obviously in front of my eyes. I couldn't.
Yeah. Yes.
So based on that, is it correct that knowledge is universal and acceptance is based on our individuality, uniqueness, or personality type? So, for example, there is a group of people who have always been very calm, composed, very kind towards everyone. But that is, for example, let's say that is the knowledge. that these people are very kind people. My particular acceptance might be that, for example, my personality type is introvert. So even if that group is very kind towards everyone, me being an introvert won't indulge with them. So is knowledge universal and acceptance individualistic?
Yeah. Knowledge is universal. This is being said since time immemorial, right? What does it really mean? Right? That it doesn't change with time and it doesn't change with place. Right? So when you, like, we take in the example of food, we can take example of health or relationships, right? So when we live together with somebody, we want some sort of a harmony, right? Whether it's you living with somebody or I'm living with somebody or anybody living with anybody, we want some kind of a what we call in Hindi talmel, a coordination, right? It's like a rhythm. If we come to a kind of a rhythm with each other, coordinated action and behavior with each other, then we can live peacefully, happily with each other, and we can be productive together. And this is true for everyone, anywhere. But if we have conflicts, then we won't be very productive. Then we won't be able to achieve much. Then we might need to break away from each other. Breaking away can give us some relief, but the pain of breakaway also is very painful, right? So what we are talking about is these harmonious states at various levels. Identifying them is knowledge. Like food and body, there is a harmony which is defined by the word nutrition. Food provides nutrition to the body. Similarly, a state of physical body where everything is functioning well and is all the systems are good, we call that a state of health. Relationships, certain dynamics are taking place. There is harmony, which we are calling friendship, right? So like this, these are all functioning. Both the units or multiple units, they are doing their action. So they are all dynamic. None is static. But this is a coordinated movement. So it's like a dance. So if the dance is working out, then we are calling it something. So identifying that dance is knowledge. And it is taking place at every level, from atomic level to galaxies or intergalactic level. You can see this dance. Coordinated movements. That's why we started with saying that the whole nature is in order. It's a coexistential, harmonious order. So everything exists together, and it does not only exist together, it exists in coordination with each other. Earth is moving around the sun. Many other planets are moving around the sun. There are some planets which have got 64 satellites around them. They're also moving around the sun. And they don't crash into each other. Ever seen a bunch of birds flying? Hundreds of them flying in the sky. Never crash into each other. Or a shoal of fish. It's only we who are, every moment we are stepping on each other's toes. We need dance classes. Dance of life. How to live with each other.
Regarding Sukriti's question on uniformity and uniqueness, I think knowledge is naturally universal, and that's what makes it knowledge. And acceptance of what you know is choosing to not choosing, but accepting it and living accordingly, based on which we will recognize what exists as it is. So all of that would be uniform, but response is creative. And we could recognize the same thing and have an acceptance of the same in terms of what is the appropriate end that we need to achieve. But how we go about achieving that is up to our creativity. So, and also our personality. So an introvert might say hi a certain way and an extrovert might say it a certain other way.
So I'm not exactly sure, but it's like, say we have certain things we've started to believe in our lives, like say snakes are dangerous, so we should kill them. Okay, that's the better thing to do, or that boredom is inevitable, or that exploitation is just part of life and that has to happen, or many other things that or that life has to be pain and pleasure. So many of these things we've heard, and if we've accepted, and then based on that acceptance we live those out, and then we will feel the pain and pleasure, or we do kill snakes and we think that's fine or something. Yeah. So then my question is like, does something else from external, like somebody else showing you or telling you, does that have to like, is there some sort of alarm or benchmark that shows you that okay, you're just stuck in a belief system that isn't very isn't obvious or isn't inherent, yeah. And there's something else that can inform a wider picture or something. So is it possible to come to that through your own inquiry, or is it something that someone else has to show you that, oh look, have you considered this, or how do you recognize the two and how do you differentiate them?
So 2 points there. One is that you can see other people making inquiry and going beyond their beliefs in life. When we're living together, we see a lot of people going beyond their beliefs, going beyond their limits at times, right? So the inspiration can come from there also. Then inspiration can come also from people who have learned how to live, and they are sharing their experiences, right? So when you come across such people and you're inspired by them, then in light of what they're saying, you start reflecting upon your belief system, and at that time you might discover something you might want to change, right? So, and then there is a systemic approach of taking certain questions and playing with them. Like the other day we were talking about what do we want to continue and what do we want to change. Now we engage with this seriously, then and apply this to our belief system. Then we can come to some issues that we might want to change. Okay, this is my belief, but this not. I would like to change this, and this is what I want to continue with. So there are many ways of bringing about the change. Change requires inspiration. Inspiration can come from within you and around you, whichever. And children are naturally inspired. So it's at younger age it is very easy to do. But as you grow older, we are not very open to inspiration. So it's our personalities become hardened. So it takes little bit more effort to change, I believe. Okay. So जानना, मानना, पहचानना, निर्वाह करना, or the Hindi words, or knowledge, acceptance, recognition, and response. Humans can live this fully. Humans are presently living from here. Rest of the world is operating from here, and because they don't have the decision making power, so there is not an issue there. This is externally governed by the collective forces around it. So like for example, in nature, sometime some species came about during the evolutionary process. So when a new species comes, it starts exhibiting some qualities which are distinct from other, right? So those qualities start having impact on its environment. But that species also multiplies. So their number increases slowly. When the number increases, that qualities which each unit is exhibiting has an impact, larger impact, more impact, and this in turn is changing the overall environment. And then comes a time when this impact, which is changing the overall environment, now becomes non-conducive for the multiplication of this species further. So its own numbers regulate it. There is no external regulation as such. So the collective and this thing in combination of each other gets regulated. That's how our bodies are. It's only under duress that this process breaks down, like for us in cancer. Otherwise, nature is very much self-regulated. There is a balance in things. For example, in one area, like suppose here, for some reason the population of rats increases. What will happen? The predators which eat rats, which is part of their food chain, they'll start eating them, and therefore their numbers will also increase. So slowly, there will be a state where number of rats has reached its maximum and the number of predators also has reached maximum, but it won't go beyond that now. And now the numbers will start falling down. The number of rats will start going down, and because now the food is going down, the number of predators will also start going down. And going down, then it will come to a minimum. It won't go below that. Again the numbers will start increasing. So this range of minimum and maximum, things keep oscillating between this. This is what we are calling balance. And this is self-regulated mechanism on this planet. No third-party intervention is needed for it. Same thing happens with oxygen, water, anything. Whether it's mineral, whether it's biological life or animal life, or humans are the only one which have to determine their own fate. That's why we come into our knowledge order. We can't determine our own fate properly without knowledge. Okay? So how does the human intellect work? Okay? So we operate from desires. Desires are some strong forces within our conscious. Whatever we desire drives us. These are motivations. They have long-term impact on our lives. Right? Somebody might have desire for a lot of money, somebody might have for good education, somebody might have for something else. Right? And then there is comparison and analysis. This is what we are calling thinking. Thinking is primarily comparison and analysis. Right? Desires are the network of desires that we have, and on basis of how we want to execute them is what is called plan. Right? Then what has to be done first, what has to be done second, what is better in this situation, what is better in that, all that comparison and analysis leads to an action plan. And then the perception and choice. So how we perceive things, and basis of that we make decisions. And this is executed through the body, through the actions of the body. This is just simple mechanism I'm showing about. We do this in detail in our further studies. I won't go into too much details of this presently because this requires some time, the full analysis of this. So we are going to talk about, is happiness an excited state? Because right now you keep hearing there's nothing exciting happening, right? You need some excitement in life. Life is very boring. Before I talk about this, we need to understand this normal state. Before we talk about excited state is in reference to a normal state. Okay? In humans, normally, like right now when we are sitting here listening or thinking, we are in a normal state. We're not very excited right now. Right? What are the indicators that we are in a normal state? If we can identify that, then we can identify the excited states. So our fundamental nature is to observe. What can we observe? We can observe ourselves, our desire, our thoughts, our choices, and we can also observe others. So can you observe yourself right now? Can you see your thoughts? Can you see your desires? Right? Can you see me, what I'm trying to communicate? Can you see others around you who are trying to listen? Right? So we can observe everything like this. In excited states, observation becomes much less or minimal. Suppose somebody is celebrating something, right? Somebody's got a good job or a big raise. They're having a party. So, excitement, positive excitement, it's a high, right? So, a lot of excitement. Have you been in such a state? Just go back to the memory of that state and see, could you observe yourself at that time properly? Or could you observe the others around you properly at that time? So in that state, observation takes a backseat. You are in momentum of some emotion, of excited state. Right? This excited state, because it's a peak, it will not last. With time, it will come down. Right? Then another peak, then it will come down. Another. So what we do is we plan a life where we have lots of such peaks. In the morning, I'll do this. In the afternoon, I'll do this. In the evening, I'll do this. In the night, I'll do this. So my whole day is packed with several peaks. This gives me the illusion of continuous happiness. Okay? But interestingly, two things happen. One is that when you go in too many highs, the same event stops giving you that high. So, diminishing highs. Same food will not be that exciting. Same activity will not be that exciting. So what do? Change. So let's not eat pizza today, let's eat something else. Okay, sports is not exciting enough, let's go bungee jumping. Let's go paragliding. Something like that. But if you do that too frequently, again, the peaks will start diminishing. And the issue is that it not only diminishes, in between you get these depressions because you have become addicted to highs. So when the high is not there, you hit lows. This you want to be in, this you don't want to be. So you make a lot of effort and jump back to a peak. So you keep fluctuating between highs and lows and highs and lows. But as the life goes on, highs keep becoming less and lows becoming more. And then you read the statistics in the world, the rate of depression is increasing. The more exciting activities is also increasing, but the rate of depression is increasing. We don't appreciate this. It's too plain. It's just normal. All your learning takes place here. All your helping takes place in this state. Your humaneness of a human being takes place in this state. All the inhuman activities take place here or here. But in the popular narrative, we are supposed to be in excited state. Life बहुत boring है. Nothing exciting. Why is it boring in the normal state? Because human beings are a unit of knowledge order. And for knowledge order, the most important activity, the most relevant activity is learning. Learning is something in which you remain in the normal state and your level of awareness increases. It increases the quality of life for you. And when you live those learnings, you are able to help others. Humane life is meant for helping people around you. When, as a human being, when we look at, say, animals do their own work, and nobody does their work. Doing your own work, but in human domain, there is one state of you doing your own work, or you not doing your own work, and there is the third thing, you've done your own work and you're helping others do their work. So what would you call humaneness? Not doing your work, doing your work, completing your work and helping others. All the humanitarian work, how is it defined? So human design is to live in a mode in which we are helping each other, not exploiting each other. But somewhere or the other we adopted this. We have become exploitative creatures, which is against our nature. Therefore, the more the exploitation, more excitement and more depression. That's what is happening. Just relate to it by remembering when you were learning, were you in normal state or excited state? And similarly, when you are helping somebody, whether you're a child, whether you're a relative, or whether you're helping some stranger, is it a normal state or excited state? Are you able to observe yourself? Are you able to observe the other? You wanted to say something?
So, essentially, I think what we are trying to say over here is that normal state can be a happy state.
It is the happy state.
It is the happy state.
And we seek to get out of it. Because we think excitement is happiness.
I think when we say boring, I think when anyone feels bored, it's not the normal state. It is a low, even if it's a shallow low. And sometimes, if we're not used to being in the normal state, we feel that there is only a low, whether it's shallow or deep, or an excited. To be in the normal state is also a little difficult, but I don't think if you are in it, you would want to come out of it.
So you're not aware of this actually. You are aware of this and this. You don't want this, you want this.
When we playing yesterday, when I cracked it, so I was so excited, and I observed that I'm happy. I was happy, and I observed that others were also happy for me.
Yeah.
So that's the excitement stage.
So excitement by name we can give, but when you cracked it, you were actually observing your thoughts and you were connecting things. Yeah.
Like, just think back. I mean, I'm just thinking back about my own experience, and I was happy even while I was cracking it. Like, I wasn't there yet. So even that momentary, even that was exciting for me. And just and when I cracked it, it was happy, but matlab theek hai, ab now like there's nothing to look forward to in that way. So matlab in that way, isn't it more like it becomes very relative, and then like normal, like we weren't really aware on because like of course our thoughts were in a different direction, but just that awareness that, hey, how am I feeling right now, just like in this, that's such important. Like I think that's such an important just realization of ki we don't just that moment of aha excitement, but even the search for it.
Good point.
So, can we say that the joy of doing and not focusing on the end result, because end result, if you're successful, you'll be in an excited state. If you're not, you'll be in a low state. But whether you enjoy the process, whether you are into it, and yeah.
So you see, when you're doing, right? So you're talking about joy of doing. Why are you doing it? Because you thought of it first. And you thought of it because you want some result. That's why you're doing it. Now, you can't close your eyes towards that. If you don't want a desired result, human beings can't be without desires. In fact, to be desireless, you have to get out of the human state, even in meditation. The conscious and the body has to separate. That is the only desireless state. Humans are with desires. Desires are not wrong. Desires have to be in tune with the natural order, natural laws, natural regulation, natural balance. That's all. So, if your result, like for example, you look after your children, right? So, you want a result, but what is the result you want? If we were to say, like, you want your child to be a learned person as well as a responsible person. Would that be accurate to say? That your child has learned something and is also responsible in living. Isn't this what all parents want? Right? So this is something which one can work. The journey will also be joyful and the result will also be joyful.
Then if you focus on the end result continuously, and you forget the journey, or you become hasty in your journey, then again you're not in your normal state, right?
Yeah, you're not observing yourself.
You're not observing yourself. You're not in it 100%.
Yeah. Please use the mic.
I'm taking the last night's example, right? Do you think you were normal state when you were trying to crack it, and when you cracked it, and even few moments after cracking it? Or were you in normal state after few moments of cracking it, and then were you able to observe other people, that there were other people who couldn't crack it? And then maybe you noticed Dinesh didn't say anything. And then you possibly noticed Vipin was not able to get it. When do you think it was? Don't you think you had more choices which came to you, what you can do once you had cracked it, had your happiness, and then it subsided, and then you could see things. And then you can figure things out, right? Was it not like that?
You're asking me particularly?
No, I'm just putting this. Everybody who was playing yesterday. Was the observation not available to you after you had cracked your own thing, and after you had that feeling of little high, and when it subsided, was that your, after that was your observation not more, is what I'm asking. And ourself also, or only on cracking that?
So
yeah, that's okay. I'm just putting a question out, right? I'm just putting a question out. When was that state?
So the basic thing is that to observe ourselves is again a decision we need to make. It's a conscious decision. We are doing never stops. Whether it's form of thinking, in form of making choices or doing some action, doing never stops. But observation is done through paying attention. Our attention can waver, and at times we can be unaware also. So it's always a conscious decision. It's an active thing to do, to observe yourself or anybody else. First, it becomes, you accept the fact that, okay, or you agree with it, yeah, this is something worth doing. But just agreement doesn't work. So you need to practice it. When you practice it, then it's like learning a bicycle. Initially, when you're learning how to ride a bicycle, you're very careful. You can feel the handle and the pedals and the things going like this. But when you practiced it properly, then there comes a stage you sit on the bicycle and you reach the place you want to reach. You don't even know when you pedaled and when you braked and everything. So this is about any practice. So observation of yourself initially is a process which you do with full alertness. But you have to first you have to make a decision that I want to do this. Then you slowly stumble across the process. Then you get a grasp of it, and then slowly you master it. And then it becomes your nature. But it will only happen if you want to do it. You have the ability to observe, that you know. Okay?
So, about this, the question that Drishta asked actually is that where does boredom lie in all these three states? Because I've been thinking about myself and my own experiences is that I always try to read as many pages in a day, try and speak to as many friends as possible, and try to go to as many places as possible in a month and so on. And after after each peak, there is a stage of fatigue and just, okay, we need rest now, and then I try and aim for a newer peak. And I don't know, there is also a stage of boredom in between. So I am not sure where does boredom lie in all of this. And if it does lie in the low state, I'm not convinced yet, but yeah, that's a very interesting idea. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So my question is that if, as you said, that if we are becoming conscious or alert while observing ourselves in whichever particular state we are, so what if we become more conscious towards observing ourselves in the high state? Does that turn into our normal state? For example, people who indulge in adventure sports or who make a professional life out of such things, it's like a thrill or a high state every day. So for them, is their high state eventually turn into their normal state?
I think one should ask this question to them: is it really a state of high every day for them now, when they are doing it professionally? Like, it becomes a routine, right? It's only a high initially, and they're just doing it because it gives them a way of earning their living. But it's a question asked to them, that it's better to ask it to them. My opinion, it is just a routine after some time. But the first part of your question, what happens if we start observing the excited state? It actually is a good clue how to come out of the excited state. The moment you start observing yourself, you come down to the normal. So like, if I am agitated because of whatever reason, then I start looking at myself. And that does calm me down.
So, a very silly example, but every time I'll talk about me only. So every time I'm in like a very happy state, I observe that I am in a happy state, I'll immediately tell myself, ज़्यादा खुश मत हो, थोड़ी देर के बाद बुरा हो जाएगा कुछ. So consciously observing that I am in a high state brings me down a little lower. I don't know. I think it's very silly, but it happens.
Yeah.
I'm going to, because that we give it. But like, I was really hoping for a promotion this year. Like, really working hard for it. Like, बहुत मेहनत करी. Like, काम करा, holidays में काम करा. And when I finally got it, like I like because I have probably attended a workshop before, so there is a there is a sense of, like, you know, asking myself that, oh, how am I feeling now? So so when I ask myself this question that, hey, I've gotten a promotion, how am I feeling right now? It doesn't, now my immediate response, because this has now become a habit, is not immediately, hey, why are you feeling so happy? Something bad will happen. Now it has become actually just saying aloud the words of how I'm feeling. Oh, my hands are like, you know, there's so much more energy, or I'm looking forward to this now, or which is the next plan of action, or my, like, just what are the sensations that are happening in my mind, in my body, and just observing that then becomes brings me down in some ways, but I would just say that makes my normal state, that makes me be in the normal state, which is what I would then start desiring. So I would say that even if your immediate thought is that, if you're just able to say it aloud, that what are your current sensations like, it will, like, you know, help you differentiate between the different highs that you're having, and also help you realize what are your normal state thoughts like, and what are your excited state thoughts like, or your intensifying lows or low state thoughts like.
Another interesting aspect to this is, like, when we're looking at this excited state, between the excited states, what is our state? And so it could be depression. We don't come to the normal state unless until we are aware of observation. So observing is very key. So when you start observing your excited states, then you start coming to normal state. Another significant point of the normal state is, do you like to be in control of yourself, or you don't like to be in control of yourself? Like, do you like to lose control of yourself? Which do you prefer? Right? So you can only be in control of yourself in the normal state. In excited states, you lose control of yourself. Most of your mistakes are in that state.
About the control thing in the normal state, I sometimes felt like I'm inhibiting myself too much or controlling myself too much and not expressing myself fully. And I don't know, in high states I felt ki okay, I'm able to express myself fully very much now. So I mean, how do we think about that? Because in normal states I felt like, okay, am I controlling myself too much? Should there be this much control or what?
Yeah. So when we talking about normal state and being in control, that is with full awareness, with full observation of self, right? So when we are inhibiting ourselves, that means there is some part which is a blind spot for us. We have not acknowledged it, we have not addressed it. So we have to first see what is happening here. So if you are in a normal state, you will see, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing now. So once you've acknowledged it, now how do I address it? The plan of action will come for it. So observation is not only for just seeing it and not doing anything about it. When you observe something, you spot what is needed to be done next, and you do that. So if you want that you should be more expressive, so you need to find a solution for this. So what is inhibiting you? You might need some sort of practice, you might need some sort of a learning, you might need different kind of company where you can express, and slowly once you start expressing, then you can, start doing it. It will be a systemic approach. It won't be a random thing, right? It won't happen like that. Pass the mic to her, please.
From all the discussions and examples, I have understood one thing. Just tell me whether I am putting it correctly or not. Like, normal state is equals to we simply observing things as they are instead of labeling them as good or bad or passing our judgments on it, or judgments on ourselves. Is it what we call a normal state?
Yeah. No. So the faculty of judging is also active in us. It also doesn't keep quiet. With observation, we will qualify our actions. There's no problem with that. When suppose you qualify an action as, this is not worthy of me doing it, then a plan has to follow. Then you are an aware person, right? And something you find in yourself, this is worthy of doing again and again. Then you make a plan that you do it more. That's how you'll improve, no? It's a journey of self-improvement. This whole exercise of Jivan Vidya, I would like to say this here, is an exercise in self-improvement. It is for changing yourself, not for changing others. This is not for changing anyone else except for yourself. What I'm sharing here is because I see these changes in myself and I like those changes, therefore I'm sharing it with you. If you like it, you can use them for changing yourself. Whether you do it or not, that is not important for me. But I would like to share, and you paying attention and listening, that is important for me. Yeah.
I think when Shweta is talking about judgment,
like
we had this issue in the last workshop also. There was a question about it and we couldn't find an appropriate word for it in Hindi. I think what you are talking about is the judgment we think about literally in Hindi, which is mulyankan.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about is passing judgment, which is very specific, which is a rejection or acceptance.
Yeah. So when you were talking about judgment, I was talking about evaluation. So there is a faculty within us. But yeah, you were saying judging people or just labeling somebody like good or bad or something like that for ourselves also. Yeah.
Controlled, yes. He was kind of passing a judgment on himself, like he was judging his ability to express. So it is what I was saying.
I don't know. I thought he was observing himself. Maybe he can qualify that.
Were you judging yourself?
In workshops especially, and otherwise also, I don't try to get into people's heads what they're doing. That keeps me sane. Yes, please.
So can we say that if normal state is fine and it's all good, in high state we are saying that we're not able to observe ourselves primarily and then others. So if we are able to observe ourselves in the high state, would that be a...
Yeah, that would be a good thing. But the only thing I'm informing you about, the moment you start observing this, you'll come here.
Think it like this. Do you like ice cream? So if you find something which is a very exciting flavor for you, do you think you'll be able to decipher as soon as it goes into your mouth what all it contains? Or you'll be too excited to decipher anything at that stage? And don't you think when you take an ice cream which you are not that excited about, you will be able to tell far better? You may not eat it, then you don't possibly like it, then it is the other state possibly, right? Then again you will not decipher much. So basically the point is, as soon as you even ask, like, why is that I'm liking this, don't you think then the excitement, the dopamine high that you get will automatically come down and you won't feel that excited?
She might still like the ice cream.
The high that I get out of doing this, I mean, I would like to take this as the mango is one thing.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting that high from a mango, why should I not enjoy that in high?
Then let's understand high. While you're eating mango, which is fulfilling your body's need, your power to observe doesn't go away anywhere. See, you're relating it to whatever sensations which are there in the body, because, and nutrition is required. If it was not pleasurable event, why would you feed your body? If it was a painful event, right? Like when you become ill, you don't feel like eating, and somebody wants to feed you, then you feel, no, I don't want to eat anything, right? Because it's not giving any pleasure to you. It is not feeling right to you. So this feeling rightness or feeling of well-being while eating is not excitement. Excitement, let's reverse this thing on its head. If you're observing yourself, you're in normal state. If you're not observing yourself, it's excited state. It's as simple as that.
So that's mean being excited is negative?
I'm not judging. I'm just saying, if you want to observe yourself, then maybe excited state is not a good state for you. But if you don't want to observe yourself, then it's a very good state for you. You decide. I'm not recommending either. all I'm saying is, the natural law is that in normal state you can observe yourself. Yeah. This is very interesting. These are all peaks. There is no possibility of them lasting. That's why they need to be packed together. Right? Whereas this is a constant state. There is the possibility of continuity in this. So these are transitory states, and this has the potential of continuity.
Doesn't the fact that we are alive denote at least some sort of excitement in terms of activity?
I would say it's more normal state, just being alive.
So, that the fact that we have some sort of organization of the body, of our organs, which imbues us with some sort of life, is at least in some sense excitement, if not happiness. That it is that we have in our body some sort of excitement. And the fact that actually even this body is not permanent. It does have if we are, as it were, pre-programmed to die at some point.
It has its expiry date. Yeah.
So doesn't that mean that even a normal state does imply some sort of activity?
So all activity, normal state doesn't mean being inactive. Normal state means full potential of activity. Actually, you achieve your full potential in normal state. In excited state, your efficiency really goes down. So, and there is no activity-less state for human beings.
I would say in the high state, our focus might be really high, but it will be very focused on like very particular things. It's not a very comprehensive view, and that's why it's also not sustainable.
It's very reduced.
It's very reduced.
Very narrow.
Very narrow.
Okay. Shall we move forward? How much time do we have? Yes, sir. Please give him the mic.
Can you slightly deliberate more upon this observation?
Yeah.
When we say we observe ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Because traditionally also
yes.
there is a concept कि हमारे अंदर एक अंतरात्मा होती है, अंतर्मन होता है जो हमेशा हमें रास्ता दिखाता रहता है
right.
या दूसरी सेंस में कि एक ऑब्जर्वर हमारे अंदर हमेशा जो है वो अनकॉन्शियसली हमेशा काम करता रहता है. तो ये ऑब्जर्वेशन मतलब थोड़ा सा इसको डिटेल में अगर आप बता पाए तो.
He's asking me to elaborate more on the observation. Okay, that's a good question, very good question. So just I mentioned this briefly yesterday. I can observe the outside world for sure, right? You all can do that. I can also observe my physical actions, my work, my behavior, right? That is also something I can observe. Behind these actions of work and behavior, there are choices I make. I'll respond to your question by this example or that example. This is a choice I'm making and then expressing it to you, right? So I can observe this is a choice I've made. These were the choices available to me. I've chosen this one, right? Why did I choose this? I can do the analysis of that state. So I can observe my thinking. I compared, I analyzed very quickly, concluded. So that conclusion is, when you see the process of conclusion, we are observing our thoughts. We'll come to that. Just observation of thoughts. Behind that are our desires. Like my desires is to sharing this content to you. And for that purpose, I am doing the thinking and I am doing the choices and I am doing the speaking. that also I aware of, that I can see. Right? So there are many levels of observation itself. Right? Then when I also do observation in form of evaluation, when I gave that example, did it fit in there? Did it communicate to the people? This is when we are reflecting, that is contemplation. Was my action right, or was it sufficient, or was it too overboard? That evaluation which I am doing is what I call contemplation. What was needed, and was I able to fulfill that need? That is contemplation for me. That is again a different observation. Watching me myself doing that. So these are the various states.
I just want to give an example to sort of maybe more clearly illustrate what I was saying just now. That suppose if there is a musician who has some sort of idea of some inkling or some thought about a song that they want to write. It's not until they give it some sort of organization and say play it in this world physically, which is to give it some sort of excitement. It's only in a phase of excitement actually can something go from what we might call, as we're calling, spiritual or intellectual.
From concept to reality.
It can only come into reality if it has some sort of excitement. What it lacks to exist is some sort of activity and excitement. And it's only then that other people, or indeed that it can exist and then be observed. So that's the point that I was trying to make, that
I got your point.
For anything to exist in a normal state, it needs to have some sort of excitement.
Yeah. So here I can see, tell me if I'm not correct, you are associating excitement with dynamic function, right? So, yeah. So for you, state, the potential state is non-excitement, but when that becomes active and converts into action, that is excitement, right? So here the concept is that potential state and action both can be in non-excited state. There is a concept of normal speed or normal momentum, normal motion. Normal motion is most accurate, right? And excited motion. For example, in the atom, the electrons are in normal motion around it. Then some external energy is given to it, they become excited, they jump the orbit. So in a normal state, the coordinated motion, you stay within the coordinated motion. In excited states, your coordinated motion breaks down. Okay. So normal state is the state in which you can be in harmony. Excited states break the harmony. Yes.
Sthiti, we can talk about state and activity, I guess.
Sthiti, gati, or state and activity. So for every activity or any motion, there has to be some potential for that, right? So, like for example, the earth has the power of attraction, right? It is there in its being, and when an object comes within its range, it gets attracted, and that time it activates. So something which will activate, first it has to happen, it has to be there in form of potential. So with potential and then action. So when this potential converts into dynamic state, both can be, the potential state is always in a normal state, but the active state can be normal activity or excited activity. Right? Suppose we're growing up tree here, it's a normal state. Or suppose in the kitchen they make the mistake and every day they start throwing hot water into its roots. So that will agitate its cells, and then that will deform it. Now it won't be, so the cells will start doing some activity to balance out the heat they're receiving and things like that. Yeah. Have I killed all the excitement in the room? Chalo, let's go have some tea. Maybe that will bring us back to normal state.